Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachari Shatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. Thank you very much. Okay, let's turn to page 1 from Bhagavad Gita. Page 1, most of you know it by now. We'll get it on the screen. Om Jnana Timarandasya. Go ahead.
Shalakaya Chakra Onmilita
Shri Guruve Nama.
Okay. I was born in the darkest ignorance. Please repeat.
I was born in the darkest ignorance.
And my spiritual master opened my eyes.
And my spiritual master opened my eyes.
Torch of knowledge.
With the torch of knowledge.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto him.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
We're in chapter 10, the opulence of the absolute. And I believe we're on text number 30, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Maharaj, correct.
Okay. Praladas chasmi daityanam kala kalayatam mriganam cha mrigendroham vainati jascha pakshinam. Among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda. So, could somebody read the purport for us, please?
I can read it. Aditi and Aditi are two sisters. The sons of Aditi are called Adityas, and the sons of Diti are called Daityas. All the Adityas are devotees of the Lord, and all the Daityas are atheists. Although Prahlad was born in the family of the Daityas, he was a great devotee from his childhood. Because of his devotional service and godly nature, he is considered to be a representative of Krishna. There are many subduing principles, but time wears down all things in the material universe and so represents Krishna. Of the many animals, the lion is the most powerful and ferocious, and of the million varieties of birds, Garuda, the bearer of Lord Vishnu, is the greatest.
Thank you so much for that nice reading. And so we are just venturing into personalities and and when I go down the list, yes, personalities would be a pretty correct word that represent the supreme personality of Godhead. So first of all, we're talking about Prahlad. Of all the saints that we read and discuss and hear about, he's probably one of our favorites. I think I'm speaking for most of you. Why? Well, because Prahlad, he was tender, he was young, and he was saintly from birth. Credit goes to his mother to some degree. Credit goes to his guru, Narada Muni. And, while he was in the womb of his mother, he was able to hear about the Bhagavat philosophy, the philosophy that we read about all the time. So from birth, he was a pure boy, and he shared, but not only was he saintly from birth, but he shared what he learned with others. And many, as we know, the 9 devotions that we talk about, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, hearing, chanting, remembering, praying to, becoming a servant, etc. That's all been sort of narrowed, categorized by Prahlad Maharaj. And acharyas and teachers have highlighted these 9 departments And but thanks to Prahlad, he put it out there on the map, the devotional map. In terms of his sharing, he said, Kaumaram acharit pragyo dharman bhagavatani ha. That means that he's talking to his friends. Listen, let's get this down when we're young. If we don't get the ways of Dharma under our belt when we're young, we will lose something. It may not be possible to pick up on it later on. So bad habits occur, and the way he put it, you know, you do things in this mundane world that lead you to, you know, kind of like bury yourself into a cocoon or into a hole, or, you know, like that. So Prahlad's teachings are very dear to us, and we kind of like follow him as a child. He was very severely abused by his not so nice father. And then later on, there's like a little bit of a big gap. We read about how he met this sadhu, and who was quite famous during Prahlad's time. A sadhu who would just basically lie there and not care for the world. If someone would come to offer him some food, he'd eat. And if no one came to offer him anything, he would just fast. So in this way, he was like a python. Some devotees call him the python man. And like a python will just lie there. And if anything comes its way, it's ready to open up his gaping mouth and then swallow it and then have his dinner. And this way he would just, you know, the snake, serpent of sorts, would live on the existence of whatever would come. So kind of a lesson in detachment. So Daicha. Daicha is those who come from the line of Diti. Diti was the wife of Kashyapa Muni, who was, let's say, didn't so much believe in time, place, circumstance to try to go for conceiving a child at the right, under the right conditions. So out of that came two corrupted sons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. And born of Hiranyakashipu was Prahlad. And he was very different from his father. And because coming from the side of the mother, they, you know, the signs were not so auspicious. Therefore, the children came out corrupted. And it was the other wife of Kashyapa Muni, Diti, who mothered the Devatas, the demigods. Interesting storyline. And Prahlad is put in the category of, let's say, being a Surik, because his father was like that. But Prahlad wasn't a Surik. He was very saintly and holy. But he stands out in that family. Like Chanakya Pandit says that when you grow a garden, you tend to a garden, you'll have different veggies and flowers, whatever in there. But there's usually going to be one plant that will kind of dominate each time you go there. It will be fragrant. It will be smelling. It will just ooze out a certain kind of fragrance and dominate the place. So in the same way, the person who dominates the Daitya dynasty, it's not so much Hiranyakashipu, it's really Prahlad. And so Krishna is to be identified through Prahlad and not Hiranyakashipu. Even though we can say that God is the one who gives birth or arouses all forms of life, and the two sides, which are pious versus the impious. Everything comes from God, that is, which is bright and that which is dark. So does anybody else want to say something about Prahlad? Does he have any comments or questions about this boy wonder?
A question.
Yes.
So as we see that a devotee can take birth in a family of demons and vice versa. Just like even in the family of Krishna, we see the Bhaumasura, who is the son of Bhumi, and if I'm not wrong, is Varahadev. Then later on, Krishna has to kill his own son because he's the Koya. So what is the dynamic? How that happened?
Yes, we do have traces of that in the genealogical table. Like the genes are such that someone is born into a good family and they go bad or end up being bad, or vice versa. But yeah, it is like, I mean, it's just a dynamic. It's a reality of the way the world is. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we read about Advaita Acharya, and he had 6 sons. 6. And 3 of them had very divine tendencies. They were very devotional by nature. And the other 3 were just couldn't give a damn about God and bhakti. And they would just kind of like went astray. So that's outlined in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, perhaps a little bit more in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. But yeah, it does happen. Some of Krishna's offspring go a little off, and they sort of misbehave, and that is also highlighted in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. It is, I just say, the way of the world. And if Krishna is the one who fathers these children, some of them end up being not so, let's say, saintly. It's just that I guess this is one of his opulence. He's able to breed good and able to breed bad, and hence we have this material world where full of dualities. You got a nice day, you got a bad day, real crappy day, and so everything comes from the Lord. There's his front and there's his behind. So sometimes we say that the backside of God is, all that's corrupt and all that's evil and so on like that. I caught a little glimpse of, I stayed in, I confess, I was in a motel room, and I looked at a movie that, just because I'm a thespian person, I looked at the old classic, The Godfather. Acting was good, cinematography was great, but boy, so much violence and corruption and so on like that. It's that's the nature of the beast, as we say. The beast is Maya, the material world, Prakriti. Good and bad come out of it, good and bad. And I have to say, these last few days have been so absolutely perfect. I wish I could walk across the US again and, experience this good, beautiful weather. Oh, I'm so lusty for it. But thank you. Does anybody else have something they want to say about Prahlad Maharaj and anything at all that comes to mind? Hey, Murari, how are you? Nice to see you. All right. Okay, and we got Dr. Chris there as well. Thank you. Then let's move along. Okay, the next phrase, among subduers, I am time. This is a really good philosophical, let's say introspection. Just like, I'll give an example, a personal example. I was dealing with one particular community. There was a kerfuffle, there was, tension, there was a meeting, and everything was going kind of crazy in the meeting. And as a community, as the dialogue continued on, things start to mellow out, because time does that. Time heals all wounds, as we say, And then I was talking to one of the persons involved in the dialogue, and I said, okay, there's some, you're feeling a little bit hurt, like you were under attack, but, allow for some time to let time do its job. let time heal the wounds, you know. And this is what we don't always put into practice sometimes, because we feel we want a quick fix. Everything has to be, you know, say, mended immediately. And but that's not, again, the way of the world. You have to let Krishna, who is time himself, do his job. And time is like on our side. I know someone who wrote a song, "Time is on our side." And it's beautifully written. And it's basically saying that let time do what it needs to do to like subdue the tensions of the world. There's tension. I don't know if I gave you the joke once, but perhaps, I don't know, I can't retain jokes so well, but there was this one guy who was having lots of psychological problems, and he went to the psychiatrist rather, and he said, oh, you know, doctor, I've got so many, I'm really confused in my life, you know. Sometimes I think I'm a teepee, you know, as in, you know, like a, you know, what indigenous people, yeah, build. Sometimes I think I'm a teepee, and sometimes I think I'm a wigwam. A wigwam is like a sort of a rounded home in which people dwell. So I don't know what I am. I don't know if I'm a teepee or a wigwam. And so the psychiatrist doctor says, relax, you're too tense. How do you like that joke? Relax, you're too tense. So we get tense. We don't need to be, you know. And even if you hit moments of tension where, you know, you feel it, you're hot, you're sweating, and you may be angry, well, you should allow some time. That's why sometimes people say, before you say anything, before you do anything, before you put your fist in the drywall, you know, and leave a hole, before you even think about doing these things, take a deep breath, you know. And when you take a deep breath, it means time has to set in, you know, it gives you a few seconds to, you know, for things to mellow out. And that's what most people want. So among subduers, I am time. This is one spot where Krishna identifies as time. And in the next chapter, he's going to say it once again, I am time. So we're always dealing with time, aren't we? Every Thursday, get on there, get in 5 minutes before 5 o'clock. That is, if it's Eastern Standard Time, some of you are different time zones. And just get in there in time. And my experience is that if you do things timely, when you do things like on time, then Krishna really helps you a lot. He'll really act very favorably. But if you're always a chronic procrastinator or chronic latecomer, you know, it's such a symptom of the mode of ignorance that you just lose out. So things have to be done in a very timely manner. Time is the reflection of Krishna, and that's stated right here. If you can read Kala Kalayatam Aham. You know, I think that's an easy one for us to remember, isn't it? Kala Kalayatam Aham. Of subduers, I am time. Little homework for you all, okay? Does anybody have any, let's say, points that they'd like to bring up in terms of this particular feature that we know is time?
I would, Maharaj. Like ever since I've been part of Krishna consciousness, ever since I read the Krishna basic book, I myself personally make sure I start chanting at the hour of Brahma at 3:30 a.m. I start the call at 3 o'clock, but I don't personally start chanting until the clock exact. I look at my watch, I hit 3:30, I start right then and there.
Wow, that is very commendable. The fact that you chant at 3:30 in the morning. Let's hear it for Andy. Andy, by the way, is going to be taking Diksha this weekend. And I guess, you know, because you befriended time. You befriended them. You're
Congratulations.
making the best use of your time by chanting. Thank you. That's a good example. Thanks for sharing that with us. And everyone can congratulate you. Okay.
Say I used when I first started joining this group, I accidentally posted the link and somebody asked me, "What is this?" I was like, "Uh-oh, I'm sorry," because I post the link in 3 different online groups to let people know, hey, if you want to chant, I'm up. Come on, let's do it.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for sharing that thing about time. Anybody else that'd like to speak on this very important issue? Krishna has time. Anyways, think about it in a cosmic way. Time has to do with the movement of the moon. It has to do with the movement of the sun, and the reactions of the stars, the luminaries in the sky. So it has this cosmic power, to time. Good. So let's go on to the next. Among beasts, I am the lion, and Mriga. Mriga refers to the lion, and I don't think anybody would have any, let's say, argument about what Krishna says here. The lion is supposed to be the king of the beasts, and we know how very aggressive they can be. And I personally have a hard time looking at some of that imagery of, when the lions go and chase and they bring down a giraffe or a gazelle or a little deer or something like that. So, oh, that poor thing, leave him alone. I just, feel like taking a shotgun. But we know that there's a need for such predators, and the lion represents strength in the way of speed, agility, having incredible sharp claws and jaws, and perhaps even a smell that would, discourage creatures from going into their territory. They're known to be territorial animals. And they also have a roar that can give you goosebumps, And in a more divine way, we have our own Narasimha. Nara refers to human, and Singha is another word for lion, and that's connected to Prahlad. It's funny that the 2 words are in the same verse, together, lion and Prahlad. Prahlad gets to know the most powerful lion that ever appeared in the world, an avatar, in fact. And it was this lion that just breathed out this incredible, tumultuous roar, and everyone was just shaking in their dhotis and saris, and hoping that he would just calm down. This was after he had shown his prowess over Hiranyakashipu's evil ways, and even Lakshmi could not, who usually sits at Narasimha's chest, couldn't calm him down with his roaring. The only person who could do it was Prahlad, and he's just a little 5-year-old boy. Bravely he goes before Narasimha and he calms him down. He was the only one who could, had the miraculous power to do that. My understanding is that in India, there's not too many lions living anymore. There's a small area in Gujarat, and that's about it. But at one time, they were pretty prevalent throughout the subcontinent of India. Sad story, but there's a few left, and we pray that these amazing creatures will not only be sustained, but even sort of multiply in a certain way. Yeah. They are beautiful animals from the point of view, they're very sociably driven, much less than most other animals like wild cats. Big cats. Amongst all the cat families, lions are the ones that have this incredible social networking. They're very, very fond of each other. They love to cuddle each other, fondle each other. But then there's also the other side, which is a little bit more unpleasant. And, they'll also eat each other. Some of the young, Hare Krishna. But anyways, they represent power, and because they are prominently situated in certain parts of the world, therefore we can think of them as a representation of Krishna. I know, Murari Gupta, you once had a cougar, right? Didn't you have a cougar once? A very special kind. Oh, you're
Unmute yourself, please.
unmute.
I had 3 panthers. You saw them.
Yeah.
One actually, we let them go out when we left that farm. We let them go out into the wild, into the Everglades. We brought them out to the Everglades and cut them loose.
No, wow, beautiful, bravo. Yeah, there are certain kinds of panthers in North America, and I think you had a special Florida breed, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a Florida panther.
Yeah, I would say that in my walks, it was always, I never worried so much about bears, but I always had a little bit of concern for lions, mountain lions and pumas, things like, because we have them in Canada, we have them in Saskatchewan, and we have them in the mountains as well, hence mountain lions. But usually they don't. I would start walking early in the morning when it's dark, and I would chant loud enough and in the middle of the road, just to let animals like them know that I'm around, and just can I make way for the monk, kind of thing. So they're beautiful creatures. We adore them because of their incredible strength. Any other remarks about lions, Prabhupada? Anything that comes to mind?
I don't have a remark about lions. I'm kind of glad if they would be extinct, because what good do they do? Like, except for attacking. Anyway, that's just a side remark.
There's fewer in India and Africa. My understanding is that they're also a little bit there is a threat of extinction for any animals practically that are in the wilderness. I mean, if their mosquitoes were going extinct, I wouldn't mind. I haven't really figured out what could they do. Somebody asked me at Sharanagati, our school in British Columbia, said, "Maharaj, what good are mosquitoes?" I said, "Well, they're food. They're great protein for the frogs and the snakes, and they keep humans out of the forest." You have to look at
they all have a purpose. Krishna didn't create anything without a purpose, right?
Yeah, everything has its purpose. Yes. Okay, anything else about lions?
I was thinking that what the demigods they did to Prahlad today would be considered child abuse, because they were scared of the Nrsingadev, so they pushed Prahlad in the front, say, "You go ahead, you do it."
Yeah, that might be so. But if you look at the ancient stories like David and Goliath, one young boy agreed, "I'll take on this big monstrous guy," and everyone accepted. So, go ahead, go for it, And it looked like that David was the young boy, right? And he had his little slingshot, and it looked like he was going to be a sacrificial lamb. Because of his opponent was big and strong and powerful, but all he did, he just released a rock on his slingshot, and it hit the big brute in a spot that just knocked him over. So I guess you can talk about examples of child abuse. I on the topic, another hero for us is Dhruva. Dhruva went through child abuse from His biological mom was like a hero for him. She was, like a guru for him. But his stepmother was super nasty. And, she said to the child who was just trying to cuddle with his father and have some games and climb on his father's back, who happened to be the king. And she said, "You can't do this, and you're not from my womb, so you just step away." And that really psychologically hurt the boy terribly. And his brother was able to have that privilege. In fact, she said something so nasty: "If you really want to enjoy the company of your father, you'll have to die and then be born again in my womb." You can imagine how impactful that could be on a tender child. And then the father was abusive in a sense, because he didn't correct, his wife. Just says that this is wrong. He didn't say anything. Just didn't say anything. So, so since child abuse is a, popular topic these days, we can cite examples of this, all over the place in the Vedic literatures. Good. So I don't, does that answer your question? Okay, Garuda Chandra. Does that address it? Okay. Then let's go to the last point. Among birds, I am Garuda. So there's beautiful tales about Garuda all over the place. Ultimately, he's the bird carrier of Vishnu. Vishnu is happy to be on the bird's back. And that's how the Lord gets around. Huh? I have one godbrother's name is Garuda Bahan, like the vehicle of Garuda. And Garuda was my support guy the third time I walked across Canada. He was a good driver. He was very great. And he was a good companion. And so Garuda, interesting thing about him, he eats snakes, right? He's supposed to be the stature of God, being that he carries him, but he eats snakes. So we may wonder, what kind of a devotee is he? He's not a vegetarian even. What to speak of being a vegan? How dare he? But we have to remember he is a bird and he does have a role to play, and is also there to address the imbalance in the world. Yeah, Garuda's, we have a real fantastic looking Garuda in our restaurant here. And in Mayapur, there's a Garuda at the courtyard, just before you enter Shishi Radha Madhava's, temple. It's what we call a Balinesian version, I believe. And he looks kind of, let's say scary. But he has a purpose. And Garuda is usually situated on top of a Singha, like a Garuda Stamba, I mean to say. Stamba is like a pillar, and outside of the Jagannath temple, where Jagannath is situated, and Baladev and Subhadra, they have a Garuda Stamba. It's from that Garuda Stamba that Mahaprabhu Chaitanya would often stand to have a look at the lordships from the distance. Garuda is there to be like a security guard. He watches over and sees to that evil forces may be staved off by his presence. He's an amazing creature. Like, the American emblem is that of a bald eagle. And have you ever been close to one? Wow, they are pretty amazing what they can do. It was a magical moment for me. I was walking in Canada, but near the American border, there was just a lake separating. It was in northwestern Ontario, and I just saw a fantastic tree with some, limbs, jutting out, and I just decided this is where I'm going to just relax for a bit and stop. So from that tree, 5 eagles, 5, not 1, not 2, not 5 of them. I scared them, I guess. They just decided to take off and they flew off into the wild blue yonder. And of course, I was pretty impressed. When you have that kind of thing happening, it makes your day. So sometimes Garuda is called a big eagle. He's massive, and everybody knows the story about determination. When Garuda came to help his little sister, the sparrow, she lost her eggs to the ocean, and she was determined to get her eggs back. So she decided she was going to dry up the ocean. And the ocean was just laughing like anything. Oh, what do you think you're doing? And she just wanted to get her eggs back, and that's all she wanted. And she went feverishly pecking away at the water. And while there's a commotion going on, the ocean's laughing. Garuda was soaring up above, and he looked down. He saw, what's going on? What's all the commotion about? So he landed on the beach, and he saw the bird working very hard, this mother bird. And I said, tell me what's up? And she said, the ocean has taken away my nest of eggs. I want my eggs back. And Garuda then decides he's going to take the protective stance. And he stood there by the beach, and he looked over to the ocean and demanded, you bring back those eggs or I'll dry you up. Okay. And so the ocean goes, oh, okay, here, with one wave brought back the eggs. And in this way, the mother sparrow was indeed very happy. And it was all because of her determination, her being very single-pointed, very focused. So when you're focused about a project, good things can happen. And Garuda was there to save the day. It's put here that he's the bearer of Lord Vishnu, the stature of Lord Vishnu, the incarnation of the stature of Vishnu. Yeah, Garuda also comes down to save during the story of Gajendra, the elephant that was in trouble. We talked about that last week, if I'm not mistaken. Any other points about Garuda? We love him.
Maharaj, I don't know if it's just speculation of mine. I was thinking it from the orthodox point of view, Garuda is untouchable. But
Yeah.
Lord Vishnu, it shows to the world that there is no such a thing as untouchable, because he touches his body constantly. So I think there is a message there. Is that right?
Yeah. But I apologize. I was looking at the chat. People are sending messages down below. And I'll be honest with you, I thought it was a message for me. I guess it is. And it's hard for me to hear a presentation and a chat to come at the same time. Anujama, my dear friend, he does it all the time to me. And I said, will you please stop this? I can't do it. I just can't do these two things at one time. I'm not Vishnu, I'm not Garuda. So therefore, I'm asking you to give me your question once again.
Yes, Maharaj, from the Brahminical point of view,
Yes.
Orthodox people, they would say that Garuda is untouchable because he eats snakes and so on. But Lord Vishnu touches him constantly. So is there a message to people, they believe so, that there is no such a thing as untouchable?
Well, I think there are such things as untouchable people, like people who are deeply into the COVID phase, COVID-19. To me, they're untouchable. I'm gonna not be near them. They're supposed to be isolated. So oftentimes when that term is used, I think it refers to people who are prone to be very diseased or are diseased, and you just keep a few miles away from them because they breed their trouble. And hopefully such untouchable people will do what they need to do to get themselves cleansed or purged, and to get better overall. But I believe there's a classification of people that are untouchable. It's not a nice word to use. So it's not a nice word to use. Or like somebody who's a leper, leprosy is still a problem, still out there, but at certain times in history, it was very rampant. And if you went near a leper, you'd probably get leprosy. You'd probably contract it through the contact. So when it comes to Garuda, eating snakes, and so on and so forth, I think that certain animals have a way of keeping clean, even though they eat snakes. But if Garuda is diseased, and let us not even think about that, then you would be thinking twice about getting close to a person or even an animal that's diseased. Right?
But Maharaj, I meant untouchable from the point of view of the Orthodox Brahmin. They wouldn't touch a human being because he's a Sudra or less than that, or because he has meat in his guts. Forgetting that Krishna is in the heart of that. That's what I mean by
So you want to address the attitudes that some people have about untouchables. Yeah. So such individuals are not really understanding that Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gavastini Shuni Chaiva Swapakicha Pandita Samadarishina, that one should look at the goodness in everyone. That is for a gentle Brahmin. Naturally, you can see a gentle Brahmin has got some divine qualities. And, there's something divine in an elephant and a cow and a dog, and also a dog eater. We might say dog eaters or chandalas are let's say, untouchables because of their diet, what they eat. You don't want to be near them. But everyone has to be given a chance, even for a man who should know better, a man or a woman who's got a bad diet, eating the worst things. We should just really appreciate that they need to have a break also. They need a break. And by the compassion, motivated by the compassion of the devotee, there's must be means and ways to get people to change their ways. Like say, for instance, make some prasadam for those who eat, and make it so that it's got a little bit of a barbecue flavor, whatever. And this is the kind of tact that Prabhupada wanted us to use, the ingenuity, the creativity. He wanted us to use our creativity and motivation ways to, so that people will get interested in Krishna consciousness. Our biggest weapon is our prasadam, isn't it? Prasadam. So people have to eat. Let's get them to eat nicely. I mean, I was told by devotees back in '72, you don't need to eat meat. John, they told me. Okay, all right. I never liked it anyways, especially liver. So now I've got, we've got a good thing going by eating prasadam all the time. Well, thank you for bringing that up. Anything else? We're covering one verse once again with our little hour gathering. Anything else that stands up? Does anybody have favorite birds while we're talking about birds? Any favorite ones? I'm just trying to be a little interactive. Arjun, there you are. You have a favorite bird?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Hare Krishna everybody. Yeah, I like parrots. We had some when we were kids, and friends used to come and tell them like bad words, and they would repeat them. They used to call the dogs, like they learn how to call dogs and cats, and when they pass through the cage, they will grab their tail and then laugh.
Yeah, there's this there is a bird that can imitate almost any sound. They can make the sound of a chainsaw, the sound of a cell phone. It's an Australian. Do we have the name down? Anybody have the name? Yeah, but anyways, powerful creature.
I've seen them chanting Hare Krishna in online.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're talking about the parrots.
Yeah. People teach them how to. I mean, they imitate. And they go Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Right.
And the parrot?
We went to Mahavir's house. Remember, Maharaj Jai Gauri had
Yeah,
parrots singing
right.
the whole Hare Krishna mantra.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I
They were
remember.
actually doing kirtan, a group of one parrots and the other parrots, and they will repeat.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Okay, then. Anything else for Bruce?
I have just one thing about the time. So in the spiritual world, there is no time factor, right? It's so hard to imagine. In the spiritual world, the time factor is not there.
Oh, time. Yes.
So hard to imagine, really.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there may be the presence of the moon and the sun. And, for the most part, we look at these heavenly bodies in a favorable way, right? But sometimes the sun can be super intense. And sometimes the moon can be also super intense. Right? If it's already cool and it's a full-blown full moon, it can really, let's say, enhance the coolness of the night, especially. Yeah. So in the spiritual world, time. I'm bringing up the point about the sun and the moon because they're reflections of time. Their movements are. But it's not the kind of time that kills, right? When we talk about time, we look at it in terms of how many years am I of age, and eventually I will, as the saying goes, kick the bucket. I will die. I will croak, and it's time like that. But so in the spiritual realm, time doesn't function that way. It's a timeless zone. Yes, you could say a timeless zone. The presence of heavenly bodies may well be there. Okay, so anything else, guys? Gals?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Just reflecting on time, I was just thinking, like, if time doesn't necessarily exist in the spiritual world, then it's a very interesting representation or expansion of Krishna, because we have it here in the material world.
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, everything in the spiritual world exists to create different moods, just like the nighttime. It has such an effect on us, right? And the daytime as well, like what noon does to us. And what to speak of the dusk and the dawn, it has so much impact on us. Yeah. So, we're to assume that in the spiritual world, we have those different mood changers. They create incredible, say, settings and moods and environs, and that we think about the Rasa dance, which is the ultimate, let's say, practice of spirituality. Krishna with his confidants, and that's usually taking place in the dark, because the nighttime can be very sort of like a romantic kind of time for people. It can stir out the best in people and also the worst. In the spiritual world, we don't have anything worse. There is nothing dark about the place, even though you're in the dark. Yeah. All right. I just finished writing a poem. That's why I was a little bit late, and I was just dictating it. You want to hear it? It'll take about maybe 3 minutes. 2 minutes.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, it's not necessarily spiritual because I wrote it about. I just had a birthday, and all my siblings got together on the phone. We always do that. So I decided to make them feel that I'm not just a fanatical religious fanatic. That let them feel like we like each other. So here it is. As many of you know, we're in the Great Lakes. Like Andy, who lives in Cleveland, it's there's beaches all over the place, and we have, those of us who live in Ontario, especially, we have beaches everywhere. So I'm just mentioning it because the term is given here. Okay, so here's the poem, which I haven't given a title to yet. And this is about our family. We were just a bunch of peachy beachy kids. Peach because we picked them before they hit the skids. We harvested just about everything, you bet. And beach because our summers meant getting wet. We had a blast at playing marbles, baseball, hula hoops. Connie once fell into the sewer, the ultimate oops. We built forts, hay tunnels, played cops and robbers. Jerry and I were in the manure, the field, hence clodhoppers. It was sweet Roseanne's birthday when JFK died, and the twins were adorable, lying side by side. Paul sucked his thumb, while Pauline felt 2 fingers were better. That was in the phase beyond being bedwetters. On television, we watched Tarzan and Curly Shirley. High school dances let us loose to move quite squarely. We liked Dylan, Joni, Jethro, Motown, the British invasion, a mild counterculture that impacted our persuasion. And Mom, Dad, we loved them despite the gen gap, the sacrifice they gave, hard to find on today's map. They had the Dutch touch, told stories of the war and depression. It was intriguing. We'd ask for more. We all had our ups and downs, the way of the world. Seasons were of sun, rain, snow, and a wind that swirled. We remain connected, though as a peachy beachy bunch, we sometimes get together for a veggie lunch. Beliefs vary, but that's okay. We are Canadian and human. Boys and girls, souls who grew up on cheese with cumin. Hare Krishna. That's the poem.
Hare Krishna.
It's kind of personal. You may not understand everything. All right, we look forward to seeing you all next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you,
Vasi
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna,
Namo
Maharaj.
Maharaj.
Thank you.
Kalpatarushya
Oh, thank you, Maharaj.
Vasudevaya Evacha
Patitana
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
Namo
Namaha.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We're missing Curtis. Haribol.
Haribol.
Haribo.
Jai Jai. Haribol. Jai
Haribo.
Jai Shri.